Welcome all sins and commandments alike. This is Griever, your guys' host as always, bringing you guys the latest, and for once, I'm not lying to you, it is actually the latest episode of 7 Deadly Sins, also known as Nanatsu no Taizai's latest season, episode 13. Now, this episode, guys, I'm really happy that I'm finally getting, on track with this, and now I'm fully actually caught up with all my episode reviews of this season. But this episode, there were good points, and I didn't mind it. It's just that I'm waiting. I am waiting like so many of us who read the manga and know about the final sin, the last of the 7 Deadly Sins. We want to see him. Now, I don't know if he's been name-dropped yet. Oh, yeah, that's right, he was. Escanor! Escanor, the lion sin of pride. That is who I want to see. I can't wait to see how he is portrayed. I want to see him. I want to see Escanor. He is my favorite character. He stands up there with Bon and Meliodas, and actually, I really like Dreyfus, too. But he stands up there as probably, almost undoubtedly, my favorite character in this series. I love Escanor, and he does not get enough screen time. He hasn't, and I want to see more of him. That being said, the episode goes back to of course, where we ended off in the last one. We see Bon and Elaine still making out, and Jericho's like, "What the hell are you two doing?" Bon says, yeah, it's no big deal, and she's like, "No, you moron. She slit your throat. What's going on here?" Now, we know how this is going to go. She's been revived with the ability, which is revealed later on. I don't know the actual translation, guys, but it's basically like revival of the damned, or revival of the grudge, or the grudge revival. Basically, what it does is it brings back people. I'm not sure if I explained this in the last review, but it brings back anyone who has big attachments, like very, very strong attachments or regrets or anger left in the world. It's all negative. Any negative, strong feeling you had towards people or places or things, their souls are revived. So, Elaine died with a lot of regrets. She died with so much. She begrudgingly has had to watch, as she explains, Jericho go on that adventure that it was supposed to be hers with Bon. She's supposed to be with Bon, and she wasted hundreds of years of her life where Harlequin never came back, and now when she finally found something worth living for, she had to go and die. And it's just not fair. And it really isn't fair. I mean, can anybody actually sit here and say Elaine being pissed off at this situation, it's not justified? I mean, yes, Bon is trying to find a way to revive her, but I'm on Elaine's side with that one. Like, I can say, okay, yeah, her soul should come back under this curse, this forbidden spell of the Demon Clan. But, as I said, the whole lolly thing still just kind of creeps me out, guys. It just really does. I cannot get past that. I really can't, because I like Bon, I like Elaine, and I like their love story. I just really wish she didn't look like that. Like, I really wish, you know how King has that form that he goes into, like the Duke of Cambridge, sort of, with the furrows and the big puffy face and the fat guy thing? What I want is Elaine to have an adult type form like that, probably some sexy smooth, make Oda draw it, because he just hourglass figure the hell out of it, and then you would have her stay in that form for the majority. I would really like that. I just really, please, because this still creeps me out, and I don't want to be creeped out by this. I know I watch anime, I know this is part of it, but really, come on, we really need, I need that at least to get fully behind this. Anyways, that being said, they have a bit of a confrontation. Elaine tries to kill Jericho, then starts beating the shit out of a Bon because she hates Jericho, because Jericho got to go on the journey with Bon. Bon is trying to stop her, and she blames him for everything, and blah, 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 blah. So, it's pretty classic. I mean, I'm sure you guys watched the episode. There's not really a whole lot to talk about with that, because she basically, as I said, she beats the shit out of Bond, and finally Jericho manages to stop her and hold her down on the ground, and they have a confrontation where I love Bond, well I love Bond, well I love him more, no I love him more, and then they start insulting each other a bit, and finally Jericho kind of gets through to Elaine's true self, saying, no matter how pissed off I am, I know that Bond will never love me because all he can think about is you, yet I would still never hurt him, so you clearly don't love him enough. And that kind of line ideal gets through to her. She starts crying, and of course this is where her body starts to lose power and stuff, and she starts going out of control. Bond stops her, and of course that's when once again the everything seems to be settled down, but then Elaine starts to go limp, and this is where Melisukla and Galen show up, and they basically say, and Melisukla explains, listen, the grudge curse, the grudge revival is something that is based solely on the negative emotions. So once she stops feeling that way, once her negativity starts going down, as will her life force. Her revival is dependent on her being negative, the opposite, the dark version of herself. So this is where Bond, of course, gets very pissed off. Who are you? Who am I? It's just introductory because, of course, Bond is not privy to this information. Neither is Jericho. They don't know who he is. They just find out, oh, you're one of those 7 deadly sins we heard so much about. Fraudrin, never heard of him, sort of idea. Of course, we get a clash here between Galen and Bond, and they find out, of course, Bond is undead and he can't be killed. Crush the head. Nope. Slice him in half. Nope. This is where he uses, of course, Hunter Festival. And that's where, of course, he takes in all the power that Galen has, all his strength, and converts it into his own and starts beating the living shit out of him. Now, and Bond, it was a pretty cool thing because Bond sits there and he kind of goes, Jesus, how strong is the captain? I just gave you a wallop, and that didn't leave a mark like that on your face. Like, the captain managed to dent your face like that. Jesus, that's really, really cool. Melisukla now enters the fray once she notices this problem and encases him in this darkness cocoon, and also explains that the reason that why not continuously take power, it's because you cannot. Your body has a certain capacity. So if your body can let's say take power level up to 20,000 and your opponent has 40,000, you can only take 20,000 of that. So that will only make the two of you even. Now, it works a little differently, I should explain. That capacity of 20,000, Bond's original power level of, let's say, I'm not sure what it is, let's call it 3,000 for the sake of argument. Now it's 23,000. It's added power level. His capacity is based from 0 to whatever he takes, but it is additive of his own power level. So once again, with that example, you have 40,000 power. He takes 20,000. Now all of a sudden, Buddy's got 20. He's got 23. So he will, by power level standards, on paper, Bond should win in a contest of power or strength. That's the way I've always viewed Hunter Festival anyway, and Bond's abilities in that regard. Now, this, of course, is brought to a moot point because, as I said, Melisukla takes Bond into the darkness cocoon, and we find out the reason some of the people's eyes burnt out when the revival of the dead was happening in the last episode was that she is Melisukla of faith. So anybody who's unfaithful, anybody who, didn't... like people who are loved and stuff, like they explain, like the husband that came back to life and they like begrudgingly, they're like, we don't want you here. They're not overjoyed like, oh my god, our husband's alive, but he's all grotesque. Like instead of going, what is going on, I love my husband sort of idea. Their thing was, get out of here, monster, go away, we buried you already, you're not part of our lives anymore. Anybody who moved on and doesn't care about them anymore, basically, they have their eyes burnt out because they haven't kept faith. Their heart isn't pure. They started to have negative emotions towards their loved ones or their once loved ones. Now, Bond's eyes did not burn out when Elaine slashed the shit out of him and did not get hatred when she started acting all nuts. And so Melisukla explains that my commandment did not work on you as that because of that. That is the power of my commandment. However, your body might be immortal, but how about your soul? And that's when she takes, or it's translated as spirit, but it's basically a soul. she manages to take out the soul of Bon while in the darkness cocoon, and Bon's standing there as a useless, basically, corpse. An undead corpse, but still a corpse with no soul in it. Bon's soul starts to fly away. Melisukla grabs it. Everyone's like, holy shit, what's going on? Galen ends up jumping up and grabbing the soul and eating it. Now, I'm curious as to, we know what happens in this episode, so it's not spoilers. What would have happened if that is the case? Like, does the soul go to purgatory? Does the soul, because we've been revealed that purgatory is part of where all dead souls do go in this universe. So would that soul go to purgatory? Or is that soul destroyed? That person can never exist ever again. I'd be very curious to know. I'd be very curious to find that out. It's never explicitly stated that's part of it. I just want to know. Like, had Bon right there had his soul eaten, could he have potentially, could someone have gone to purgatory or whatever realm and retrieved his soul and brought it back potentially? I don't know, and I'm kind of curious to find out. I'd like to know that information, because what does end up happening, of course, is that Zhivago, his father, this is a really nice moment. Zhivago, his father, shows up and then says, "Listen, I'll switch places with you. You know, I'll distract him." And Bon's like, "Are you insane? Like, that's not how it is. Like, are you nuts? Like, you'll never see your son again and stuff." And then Zhivago brings up the fact that, well, last time I abandoned you and went for him and, you know, my other son Therion, and really it didn't get me nowhere that time. He goes, "This time, once again, I've had a second opportunity. You're right in front of my eyes and I can save you. I have a second chance to save you. I'm not going to mess it up a second time. You are also my precious son. You know, I'm sure, you know, Therion will understand." And Bon is crying the whole time. And this is such a short scene, but it's impactful. It really is. I really enjoyed this, guys, especially where he has been calling Zhivago the whole time. The whole time. But right here, he calls him Dad. As he cries and he passes by and lets go of his hand, he calls him Dad. Guys, gotta say, it was a little. The eyes weren't necessarily dry during this point in the episode. I was sitting there going, okay, you know. So that did happen. That was all very sad. Of course, this is where it's revealed that when they start arguing stuff, Bon ends up using Fox Hunt, slashes out both of their hearts, assuming at this point that they. He knew better than that. He knew better than that. He knew that demons had more than one heart, but he took the opportunity to at least get rid of hearts. The one of the 7 hearts of both Galen and Melisukla. So now they are both down to 6. He took an opportunity and he grabbed it. I mean, that was really, really smart. I think he should have probably continuously, like, boom, 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 at one of them at least. Like, get rid of one of them completely. That might have been the smarter choice. But likely he didn't have enough magical power now, as it's revealed, after using Hunter Festival and having his body overloaded so long. He probably only had enough strength for that one attack to grab Elaine and Jericho and get the hell out of Dodge. Now, Galen and Melisukla are going to give chase after they take initial damage. It was just a pausing tactic. He knew that. They have to recover. Getting your heart ripped out, even if it's only 1 of 7, still hurts like a bitch. We can see from both of the commandments that they do kneel for a little bit, and they do have to have at least 30 seconds to a minute of recovering. Go, okay. Body, go back to normal. Blood, stop. All right, we're good. Now let's chase him. It's also seen here that Jericho ends up lifting up both Elaine and Bon, because Elaine's body is, of course, right now useless because she's no longer begrudging of Bon or anybody around her. And Bon is, of course, after using Hunter Festival and stuff for so long, now is basically a limp corpse at this point. So Jericho lifts them both up and calls them both idiots. You owe me big time, and she goes away. The end of the episode, we jump back over to Dreyfus / Fraudrin, who is going through the town and are actually having a conversation, it seems, within their heads. Fraudrin, of course, is taking over Dreyfus's body, but of course Dreyfus, with his will, still has his own persona inside and tells, he says, oh, look at all the delectable souls in this town. And he tells them, we don't see Dreyfus actually say it, but it's implied. He says, what's that? I cannot eat innocent souls? Well, have it your way then. He agrees to Dreyfus's request. So they seem to work in some type of conjuncture here. It seems that Dreyfus has some measure of reasoning with Fraudrin while using his body. That seems to be some sort of very thin ice arrangement that they currently have right now. It's kind of like, yes, I know you're going to do evil shit, but let's limit the evil shit, all right? You know, you're using my body. Here's the deal. Because I'm sure Dreyfus could potentially fight back much, much stronger and potentially, you know, have a battle of willpower between him and Fraudrin if he so chose. But as we saw in the past, between Hendrickson and himself, that didn't go over very well. And so right now, it's not really, it's not a good idea because any innocent soul could then be possessed and such, as he showed with Hendrickson. So he doesn't do that. Now, this is where the Azura Knights show up, and this is where things get interesting. Now, is her name Deidre? I'm not sure. I'm very bad when they spell a name out and then they pronounce it in the Japanese anime. I always find that once it comes over to English dub, and then I see people reviewing it on YouTube who speak English, they always pronounce it a little different. Not all the time, but sometimes. So I'm always very hesitant to use names that I'm not confident in. But we're going to go with Deidre. Deidre, she ends up using an ability called Love Bite or Love Drive. And this ability has her basically every time she kisses Dreyfus on the cheek or peck on the lips or whatever. And then her ability allows him so that he can't attack her. He is now fallen. He has a strong attachment and an infatuation with her. So he continues to, as she makes out with him and kisses him and touches him and stuff, she's like, Deidre, I, yes, love you. And it's just this, I love you. Oh, tell me more. And it's just one of those. It's a very interesting scene. We get an introduction to her and Ardrin, who has the ability of draining magical power, it seems. It's not really implied here. It's stated power or strength, but it must be his magical power, because otherwise he would be able to continuously use his abilities. Now, Ardrin attacks him with 5 arrows, and that's 5 times the normal dosage, as he implies. So his magical power is all but gone. It's been draining this whole time. Now, this is where the man, I believe his name is Vio. He also jumps into the fray because Dreyfus or Fraudrin has said, I'm not, I don't need my magical power to take care of the likes of you. I will protect my love, Deidre, and that kind of idea. So he's completely lost it. He's being affected by both magical powers, which seems kind of odd to me because these two don't seem to get enough screen time. I mean, I know they've just been introduced in the anime, but spoiler alert, guys, they don't do a whole lot in the manga. They really just don't. So it's very surprising that a commandment could be so heavily affected by these two's magical abilities, and yet they're having such a hard time with other commandments. It's kind of odd. It might be for the fact that, of course, Fraudrin has been inside a human body, a human host for so long, and Dreyfus is still there, present in the soul part of it. So it's definitely a unique. Let's call Dreyfus and Fraudrin's body and situation a little unique. I don't believe that the same thing would affect, for example, Zeldris or Galen. I don't believe that would fully affect them in that regard. This goes on to say that it's revealed that this Denzel person is on the move, and Dreyfus is very recognizable about this, recognizes the Knights. They are the Paladins of Azure Sky, and, this is just not going to go over well. Now, they end up, between the team-up between Vio, Ardrin, and Deidre, they eventually manage to subdue Dreyfus. So now Dreyfus has been officially captured by the Azura Knights. This should be interesting in the next episode if they cut back over to it. If not, not a big deal, because I'm just so stoked to see the Lion Sin of Pride, Escanor. I'm so pumped, guys. I'm pumped. I got to pump some iron before episode 14. I really got to work out and beef up for this one, because that's where we're headed with this. We're headed for muscle, bone, friggin' just, yeah. I'm stoked, guys. I'm so stoked about this. So, anyways, guys, that's your episode cap. There wasn't a whole lot to say. There was a lot of fight scenes. I know I've ranted a little bit, but I felt like there wasn't a whole lot to say other than they fight. There's the end of the episode. So I tried to go a bit of a play-by-play here instead, because there wasn't really a whole lot to discuss or talk about necessarily. But anyways, guys, that is episode 13. I'll stop talking for now. This has been Griever with your episode 13 review of Nanatsu no Taizai's latest season, Revival of the Commandments. We will see you back here for episode 14. I'm stoked, guys. I can't wait, as I have said 3, 4, 5 times in this video by now, that Escanor is going to be here, and I can't wait to see him. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you back here next time. See ya.